Hi guys, Victoria Paxton here. Thanks for stopping back by my YouTube channel. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Madison Scott. Okay, Madison, or Maddy as she went by, she was born on April 29th, 1991. Ugh, I hate doing this. I hate reading. Maddy worked as an apprentice heavy-duty mechanic with her father at MBG Logging. Wow. She's the younger sibling of Ben and the older sibling of Georgia. She enjoyed dirt bike riding, figure skating, horseback riding, and hanging out with her friends. There's nothing this girl couldn't do. That's already obvious to see. Maddy was described as vivacious, fun-loving, playful, and social. She would often break off engagements if something more entertaining came up. She canceled her plans with her cousin Cora in order to go on this trip, which is kind of eerie. She loved performing with her friends or for her friends in amateur videos. She was single at the time of her disappearance, but she was on a few acting dating sites, so I guess she was definitely interested in dating. Okay, Maddy went to Hogsback Lake in her 1990 Ford F-150 with her friend Jordy Baldock. I know I'm probably saying that wrong. On the night of May 27th of 2011. So Maddy was in her tent going to sleep when Jordy came in and said she was drunk and she wanted to leave. Maddy said she wasn't leaving, she was going to stay. So Jordy came back the next morning, her and her boyfriend, at 8:30 in the morning to get her tent and her sleeping bag and her stuff before she had to go into work. And she noticed that Maddy's tent was open and that her stuff was all pushed to the side. But she didn't call anyone or do anything about it, which kind of really sucks. I mean, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference, but you never know. So at 11:30 p.m., Maddy and her friend Dawn were texting each other. And apparently someone else was texting Maddy because Dawn said it was someone that they both knew, a guy that they knew. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, so her mom and dad ended up calling the police and saying, look, we came out here, she's not here, we don't know what's going on. The police supposedly interviewed all of the kids that were at the party the night before and did polygraphs on all of them, which I don't know about all that. Thinking back to when I was young and carefree, I was a teenager and I would go to parties. I mean, people would come and go so often, so how do you 100% know? You know what I mean? And especially at a campground, it depends on how it's set up. But I mean, a carload of, 8 people could pull up and you're going to know maybe I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just bizarre. Like, oh yeah, we polygraphed all of them. We interviewed them all. They didn't do anything to her. Come on. Okay. So here's another interesting thing. So the police collected Jordy's sleeping bag and her pillow, right? She had blood on her sleeping bag that was from a prior trip, apparently. But as soon as Jordy got home, she washed her pillow. What would be the point of washing your pillow if you're not going to wash your sleeping bag, which has blood on it from months before? The other strange thing was she had to, turn her things over to the police, and she kept begging the police to get back her favorite pillow. Who does that? Like, your friend just disappeared, she's missing. I didn't get that part. Yeah, there's something about this Jordy chick that just, it doesn't sit well with me. I don't necessarily think that she harmed Maddy, but there's something about her that doesn't sit right with me, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, but there's something there. So the area around Hogsback Lake was extensively searched. They had helicopters, people doing grid searches, and it's 120 acres. The size, it's 120 acres, and the water at the lake is 22 feet deep. And they supposedly searched everywhere and didn't come up with anything. Okay, so Maddy came through. She's a cute little girl. I say little girl, but my son's 28, and I say he's a little guy too, so yeah, she came through. She was so bubbly, she had little freckles, and she was just very happy and upbeat. I asked her if she would walk me through what happened and what led up to her disappearance. So she said Jordy had come up to her. Okay, here we go. Let's get to the bottom of this. So she said that Jordy had come up to her and said that she wanted to leave to go spend some quality time with her boyfriend. Yeah, so Maddy was a little upset and she was like, whatever, Jordy, go on, see ya. And I asked Maddy, I said, were you afraid to stay there and camp by yourself? And she said, no, not at all. I'd camped before. It wasn't any big deal. You know, so she kind of sloughed it off like it was nothing. Okay, so a little while after Jordy left, Maddy couldn't get back to sleep. So she came out of her tent and she was kind of checking things out, getting her bearings and looking around. So she said there was a group of like 3 or 4 guys that were over closer to the lake, you know, talking. But she didn't really know them, but, you know, they kind of turned around and acknowledged her. And so she went back into her tent. Okay, so a little while later, she had somebody outside of her tent. She could hear that somebody was out there. So she unzipped the tent to see what was going on. So there was a guy standing there. She didn't recognize him. So she thought maybe he was with the group of other kids that had shown up towards the end of the night. So she got up, went outside of her tent, and the 3 or 4 guys that had been sitting near the lake, they were now gone. So it was just like her and this guy, and she could hear some people further off in the distance that were around. So she was like, do I know you? You know, she asked, do I know you? And he was like, no, but I know you, Maddy. And she was kind of taken aback by it, right? If you're sitting there talking to someone you clearly don't know them and they know your name, that's kind of eerie, right? Anyway, she said he was really quiet and soft-spoken, and so she thought, he's harmless. So they walked out and they sat down, and, you know, they were kind of chit-chatting, having a good old time, you know, just talking back and forth. And she said, I asked her what his name was, and she said, you know what? I never did ask him his name. And I'm thinking, why didn't you ask him his name? She said the conversation was just going so smoothly, and because he said he knew her, she just assumed, you know, he was harmless, right? Famous last words. Okay, so she was really starting to like this guy. You know, he seemed pretty calm, cool, collected. He was funny, he made her laugh. So he said, hey, do you want to go to my tent? It's pretty close by. And she was like, okay. They walk around the corner, and there sits his vehicle. I guess it's like she said a black 4-door small vehicle. So she got in, and he said, oh, I'm just back over here. And he was pointing like behind where her tent was. So he turns the car around, and he starts going. And immediately she said, like, she tried to speak to him, and he just ignored her. She said he was just zoned, you know, his face forward, straight ahead. And she said his eyes even looked different, you know, that he had just totally like, it's like he changed, like a switch flipped or something is what she had said. So she started feeling uneasy. And so she said, you need to turn around and take me back to my tent. Just take me back right now. And she had laid her phone and her car keys in the little like middle console section, and he grabbed her keys. So she was like, just take me back to my vehicle, just take me back and everything will be fine, just take me back. And he was like, no. So then he all of a sudden pulls over, slams the car into park, and he proceeds to jump on her and starts raping her. She was fighting him. She was trying to see, you know, because he was on top of her, and she was trying to see if she recognized anything around her, you know, because her thinking was, the second I can get out of this car, I'm going to go, you know. So she was trying to figure out, get her bearings kind of while he's raping her, which anyone that has been through something that horrible, it's really hard to focus on other things because you're just screaming inside of your head. Like, you just want to get out of there, you know. Okay. So when he got done, he just kind of like got off of her and was like half sitting on the middle console with his legs over top of the passenger side, like over top of her legs almost. And she said she was trying to like get her legs close to her body, you know, kind of like in the fetal position. She just didn't want to touch him. And she was like, you know, who are you? What's your name? What the hell do you want from me? And she said she wasn't sure, like, why she felt this way. But all of a sudden she had a flash, and she saw this guy with her friend Jordy's boyfriend. So Jordy had a new boyfriend that she was with, I guess, at the camp that night. And so she was like, you know Jordy, don't you? You know Jordy. You know Jordy. You're friends with Jordy's boyfriend. And he just like basically ignored her. So she's trying to get out of the car. She's trying to get the window down to try to jump out just any way she could to get away from him. He somehow like jumped back on top of her, and then he had hit the unlock button because she said she heard something, and then he kind of like rolled over top of her out of the car and grabbed her up, right? He took her off to the side, and she said it was like it was a small wooded area, and she said she felt like they were still on the trail that goes through, I guess, that area, through the lake and the campgrounds and all that. But she said she was definitely still in that area, like definitely. Okay, so he gets her out of the car, he grabs her out and gets her on the ground, and he starts choking her. And so she loses her breath, she's not able to breathe, and then I guess she realizes at some point that she's gone. And she was able to look down and see this guy, and he like pulled her a ways into the tree line. She said he was like stumbling and having a hard time because, you know, it was like pitch black. So at one point he kind of like dropped her, and then he went back to the car, and she thought he was just going to leave her there. And then he came back, and he had like his cell phone light, and he turned that on, and he was trying to see like how much further back he could go because he was shining it like ahead into the wooded area. Anyway, he drags her back and throws a bunch of like, I don't know, brush and stuff on her. And that was it. She said that she knew, even though she didn't know exactly where she was, she knew she was really close to where she had originally camped. It's not that far. So she is, in fact, there somewhere at that campground. Yeah. I don't know, guys. Once again, another senseless murder. Why? You know, I don't understand why. I don't understand. I don't get it. Okay, so be nice, be kind, be pleasant, be polite. Don't go on anybody's YouTube channel and say nasty stuff to them. Just be nice, you know. One little word that you say to somebody could totally change their entire life. You just don't know, you know. So wear your mask, wash your hands, follow your state's or country's orders as far as, you know, quarantine and lockdown. They're trying to ease up everywhere. It's scary, you know, so we'll get there though. So yeah, so that about does it for me. Bye guys.